How's it going, Smart Meetings? I'm Eming Piansay.
And I am Sara Robertson. How is it going, Smart Meetings?
And we are your hosts of a rebranded, refreshed, reimagined version of what we were previously, which was Meetings of the Mind. It was a great title. We loved our title.
It was a great title. I loved that title.
It was. I loved it. But if you actively look on Spotify, you will see how many shows are named that. We're like, maybe we should change it and make it a little more relevant to what we do.
Maybe we should even throw smart in the title.
That was a great idea we had, branding. Also important to the hospitality industry. Who are you? What are you? And that is ultimately what we're doing today. We are rebranding, refreshing, being new and different.
So here's our shiny, sparkly, golden, glowing new podcast, Smart Start Radio.
Yes. Disclaimer, essentially. Sara and I are fairly new to this meetings industry. I started about almost 2 years ago. Sara's about a year.
Hence the start.
We're starting. We're starting, to be different, to be new. And so we might not know all the things. Just disclaimer. Like, we don't know everything. And that's why this show is so great for us and for you. If you are a new planner, if you are a planner that's been around for a while, we are actively going to try to find new voices, new information for you and for us, because we're writing for you.
We are here to help you learn as we learn. We're here to learn with you, and we want to put together a great resource.
So at the top, we have some, I guess we want to call it breaking news. Sara, in August, is going to ASAE in Cleveland, correct?
That is correct.
So can you tell me a little bit about what that is? Because I, as someone who's never been to ASAE, what exactly is happening in August?
ASAE is going to be taking place in Cleveland, Ohio in August from the 10th through 13th. So this is its annual meeting and exposition. ASAE is the Center for Association Leadership. They are a massive industry resource focused on the association world. So if you're a planner in the association world, you probably have heard of ASAE. And, people love to throw out there, I heard this on my first day about a year ago, that this is the industry of acronyms.
That is so accurate. That is painfully accurate.
So the ASAE exists for associations. The whole goal is to create connections between associations, people who are involved with them, planners who are involved with them. So this annual meeting and exposition is the big event of the year where association professionals are going to be gathering from all over and get together to learn together, just like we're doing here. So I'm super excited. I know that I, once again, have a lot to learn. So I think it's going to be a great resource, and I'll be attending as press because here, coming from Smart Meetings, we are here to connect you to the wider industry, write and report about the wonderful things that we're seeing.
But you're also going with someone. Who are you going with?
So I'm going with Gary. He is our wonderful managing editor. And funnily enough, he is just waiting on the other side to join us today. So Eming and I have actually decided to sit down with Gary for our very first episode of Smart Start to learn about his experience in the industry as someone who's more experienced than us, to really kickstart the idea that this is a place for learning. This is a place for connecting with mentors, to learning how to become mentors, and to really just getting a handle on what this immense industry of meetings and events is.
Yeah, so we had a really great talk with Gary, and we're so excited to share it with you. Let's throw it to us in the past. Go, Eming and Sara.
And today we are here with Gary Diedrichs, our managing editor here at Smart Meetings. And we are going to dig into all of his industry knowledge and expertise. And we are just so pleased to have you here today, Gary. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome, and I feel humbled by the invitation.
Well, you're kind of a big deal here at Smart Meetings. I mean, personally, I met you through your writing. I guess to kind of kick things off, the one thing that really stood out to me for you as a writer is that you kind of really focus on niche topics, which I appreciate because it's a lot of topics that I'm not familiar with. And a lot of people probably aren't familiar with as you've been writing for the industry for quite some time now. How have you found these stories? Like what draws you to them and how do you research them?
Well, I'm drawn to the stories that haven't been told as often or as well. And in the meetings industry, there are lots of them, as it turns out. But I think the baseline point here is that just about everything that happens has some impact on the meetings industry. I mean, whether it's today's headlines, whether it's today's weather, we have a hurricane in the Caribbean right now. How is that going to affect meetings? I mean, that's the meetings angle. We have a messy political situation. Will that affect meetings? Will that affect where the cities where these conventions are going to be held soon? I mean, just about anything you can think of somehow impacts the industry and has a takeaway for meeting planners who are paying attention.
So as an example for that kind of story, what made you want to do that? And how did you think that would help people who are trying to create events?
Well, F&B is one of my interests, and that's one of the things I've been writing about for quite some time now at Smart Meetings. And I have a personal interest in mushrooms. I happen to think they're cool and largely unknown. There are thousands and thousands of species of mushrooms that have never been identified. But the ones that have can do amazing things. So I thought it would be fun because meeting planners are always looking for something new and different to put out in F&B. There's an increasing demand for meatless meals. Mushrooms fit that bill because they are high in protein and they have different flavor qualities that you can use to do spins, do takeoffs on popular dishes that people would really resonate with. And it turns out you can even make conference booths from mushrooms. There's a company up in upstate New York that is using a particular kind of mushroom, and they're turning it into mushroom leather, and they're turning it into something that's very much like plastic. So they can make chairs, they can make tables, and they can probably make an exhibit booth, which by the way, will be biodegradable. Another big hot button in the meetings industry.
We love to see biodegradable. That reminds me, once I was at a fam trip in LA at the Marriott Anaheim, we did a mushroom tasting experience. So I got to try a ton of mushrooms, lion's mane included. There were so many. Really cool. So I wonder about how topics as niche as mushrooms can be related to the meetings and events industry and how planners can discover these things, especially when you're a new planner and you're just starting out. How do you not get overwhelmed by entering an industry that is so complex, that has so many arms in so many places? Where would you suggest new planners start discovering?
That's a great question. I think the first thing I would say is they will quickly find out this is an industry that's all about sharing. People are very generous with their information and with their knowledge. So be mentored, and then as you progress, mentor. And I think you need, you can do it slow and steady, just add a dash of your own creativity. And all along the way, along this journey, just don't burn out. Beware burnout. I mean, you can work very hard at this, and you can have a race to the finish line when the curtain is about to go up. But it's really important to kind of measure your activity as you go along to make sure that you're not one of those that just falls behind because you've run out of breath. That sort of answers your question, but not really. It sort of speaks more to what my advice would be for someone just starting out in the industry that they should be aware of. Where do they find these niche ideas? Again, I think colleagues are great for this, but I think it's necessary and desirable in the meetings industry to be curious and to be inquisitive about just about anything, because meetings happen everywhere and for every reason. Nothing really big, almost nothing, ever got done in the history of the world if there wasn't a meeting that started it all, that got the ball rolling. So attend as many of these as you think you can. Get your mentors, and then just be curious. Read the news, read the blogs, listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of information out there, but what you need to do then is put on your meeting planner's hat and say, what's the takeaway for me? What's the takeaway for me in this industry? What can I get from this that I can then use to make a better experience for those who are attending my events?
So, as you know, kind of the whole point of our relaunch of this podcast to Smart Start is we wanted to create a toolbox for planners of all sorts, but mostly ones who are new to the industry. So, with your experience as someone who's like, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you know a lot how this works. People have misconceptions about the industry, about what you do in the industry. So when you are, explaining what it is that you do to people, how do you best, encapsulate like all the different aspects of this industry and how you, write about it, how you view it, how you experience it in your own way?
Well, first of all, I think you have to kind of reconcile yourself to the fact that your mom's going to think you throw parties.
But they're fun parties.
I mean,
Gary.
It's just what people. They're fun parties, sure. Then what's wrong with throwing parties? But as you soon learn, it's so much more than that. And that's one of the joys for me of covering this industry, because there are so many aspects of it, whether it's the hospitality world, the various kinds of meetings that happen out there, all the different industries that are involved and who have to have meetings. It's all great stuff. And the more you know, the more you realize there is more to be learned. So when you're telling friends what you do, you can start by saying, I work in the biggest industry that nobody ever knows about. It's bigger than gas and oil. It's bigger than the automotive industry. When you take all the economic impact that events, meetings, hospitality has together, all the facets of it, it's huge. It's huge. It's enormous. So, it's something to be proud of, and it's something to talk about. But I think just know that in the end, when your mom tells her best friend what you do, you do parties.
But they're parties where we get things done.
Very good point. That is the reality of it. They are parties with a purpose.
We might have to steal that for this show as we progress with this.
We might. Maybe that's our headline.
Parties with purpose.
You've gotten to see the industry evolve. You've gotten to see our magazine evolve. What are things that have happened in recent years that you didn't expect? What are some developments in this industry that you think are going to bring us towards a stronger future that we maybe didn't anticipate?
Well, that's a big question. Obviously, the first thing you have to mention is the pandemic. And I know we're all kind of sick of hearing about it, but it made such an impact. It did change our industry forever, because so many people left because they couldn't make a living. And now we have so many younger people starting out on their journey and trying to, put their arms around a very confusing and very amorphous kind of industry. The pandemic's influence on the airlines industry, on the hospitality industry, it cannot be ignored. And I'd say the other one, which, again, we may be a little sick of hearing about, but as I heard Sheriff Karamat, the president of PCMA, say at EduCon in Detroit, where I attended last week, he said, I know you're all sick of hearing about AI, but it's not going to go away, so you better get used to it. I mean, it's going to change the way we do work, and we hope for the better, because it's going to make doing a lot of the time-consuming, tedious things that we have to do to get our meetings launched. It's going to take that and make it so much easier so that we can hopefully concentrate on the big stuff.
Mm-hmm. How did people respond to that at EduCon?
They kind of laughed nervously.
Because
that's fair.
I mean, everybody knows some people are worried that's going to take planner jobs away. And personally, I don't think so. And I think what we say around here at Smart Meetings is that, if anything, it makes the human touch even more important. The more automated and robotic aspects of it are, the more the high touch that only another human can bring to the party will make a difference. I just read a piece not long ago that was making the argument that in the midst of AI and all the other technological developments that we're seeing in this industry as well as any other, that those moments at hotels where they go the extra mile to do the human thing, to reach out to another person, to make them know that they're valued and welcome, is going to be more important than ever. And I tend to agree with that.
It really does make all the difference. And, I think meeting planning and hospitality is so intertwined when it comes to that human touch.
Yeah, it's a big part of what the industry is all about. And that goes back to the way, I think there's a lot of generosity in this industry. I think it draws the kind of people that want to make other people happy and productive and bring out the best of them. I mean, that's one of the things that certainly draws me to it. And I've met some wonderful, warm, generous, and very smart people in this business.
So on that note, since you've, being part of this industry means that you are traveling quite a bit. Like you were, if you're like our boss, JT Long, you're always on a plane. So in that respect, like in your experience, like what's some advice you would have for people who aren't used to that kind of lifestyle and they are, starting this industry? Like what's some tips and ideas you have that will help them adjust into that kind of world?
Well, yeah, travel is a big part of what we do. Certainly with some planners more than others. Some planners are fairly local, others are global. Mm-hmm. But they all travel to one degree or another. And frankly, I think that's one of the big reasons that draws them to the industry, because they like that. But, like any business, like business people in general who have to do a lot of business travel, you just kind of learn over time how not to burn yourself out on it, how to pace yourself a little better, how to, if possible, make it a leisure trip, or you blend a little leisure travel along with your business travel, and which, by the way, can be a great learning experience because you could be checking out venues that you might find useful in the future for your meetings. So it's all work in a way, but it's also play. Mm-hmm. There are all kinds of things like that. I think, you never, I mean, I know personally, I have a harder time than I used to getting adjusted to time changes, big time changes.
Dealing with time changes. Oh, yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. And, there are all kinds of advice out there and products out there that are supposed to help you get over those humps and find out what works for you. If it's, is it changing your watch 3 days ahead and pretending you're in the next time zone already? Is it some sort of vitamin supplement? I mean, there are all kinds of things. And find out what works and try it and find a combination that you think keeps you functioning the way you want to function.
Yeah. One of the hardest things, I think, with traveling so frequently is just habits, maintaining your habits, your routines. You're not in your home, you're in your hotel room. Right. Are you going to do your morning walk? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard
because oftentimes those sessions start very early. Mm-hmm. I always try to get up early enough, at least so I can do some stretches. Because I'm, at that age when that really helps me. And if I can get a walk in, great. But I also know that probably at most meetings, especially anything that involves a trade show, I'm going to get my steps in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're going from meeting room to meeting room, booth to booth. You look at your phone, you're getting your steps in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you brought up earlier that I wanted to actually circle back to is burnout. I think that that's a really, really relevant topic right now. And, when it comes to an industry as fast-paced as this, you said to be careful to avoid burnout. But it's hard to. You get so involved with your work. You're trying to, if you're a young planner, you're trying to build up your career, trying to seize opportunities. traveling all the time and trying to maintain your daily habits that keep you sane. And it's hard. We, just came out with this 32-hour work week story in our July issue, and we wrote about burnout and trying to manage your workload. But, all of these things have to do with how a person individually chooses to handle their workload. And we continue to talk about, meeting planning is a demanding career. How do you balance that in what you've seen?
Well, it's always a struggle. I certainly agree with that. And I'm glad you mentioned that issue, because I think there are a lot of valuable tips in there for people to, if not work 32 hours a week, at least to find a pace that works for them and find ways to work more efficiently and be more productive so that they don't have to put in as many hours. That's kind of what it's all about. I mean, I think you realize after a while that it's not how many hours you put in, it's how good the work was that you did. And hopefully you find yourself, maybe you keep moving on until you do, in a team, in a collaborative situation, because this industry is very collaborative. It's all about teams. It's very seldom that somebody flies solo. You find a team that believes, as you do, that it's important to have a work-life balance and kind of facilitates that whenever possible. Hey, when it comes time to set up the show at the end of the planning process, you're probably going to work 24/7 or close to it. You're going to work, you're going to do whatever it takes. But then there should be time to unwind, relax, reflect, learn. I mean, there are lessons to be learned from every experience, and if you rush into the next one, you're not going to have time to process what you've just been through.
Very true. So when you were on your trip for like a week in Detroit, how did you make time for yourself to because when you got back, you seemed like you were fine. So I'm really, you're just like, hey guys, good morning. We're in our meeting. I got back last night and I was like, okay, you look like you've been here a while, but okay. Because, you were in a different time zone for several days. Felt like, I think it was 5 days, maybe more. So yeah, just how did you maintain yourself during that time? Because that was fairly recent and it was a chunk of time.
Well, for one thing, I started out in California and I went to Michigan, and it's kind of easy. You're going in that direction, for me anyway. The adjustment doesn't seem as great. It's coming back that's harder because then everything is earlier instead of later. But while I was there, I'll be honest, I didn't go to every session.
Bravo, Gary. Bravo.
I was strategic in what I wanted. I know. I'm admitting it here for the first time. I was strategic in the ones I picked. I tried to choose those sessions that I thought would be the most impactful for our audience. Not everyone was. I tried to, sometimes there were conflicting sessions, but here's a good example of why AI may make it easier for us. I also knew that a program called Wordly was an AI program, was recording every word, and at the end of the conference, all they had to do was go into the app and get a summary and get a download. So anything I missed, I know I really didn't miss. Yeah. So how cool was that? So I went to the ones that I thought were really important, and as far as the social events were concerned, I went to them all, and I tried not to drink too much.
Very adult of you, Gary. Very adult.
Yeah. It's definitely a skill to learn, how to prioritize. I think my first ever conference, I was like, I have to go to every session. No. And I went to every session. And by And by the end, I was
newbie, Sarah.
Wiped.
Newbie move, Sarah.
It completely was. And so I learned from that, and I'm not going to do that to myself again, but it really is a skill. And I just want to hit on that point because I think it's really valuable to prioritize what you can. And we have access to resources where we can gain the information and knowledge that we need to gain.
We do. And I also think it needs to be said that not all the best stuff comes out of those sessions. Sometimes the best stuff comes out of the people you meet in the networking. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the energy left to do that well, then you might miss out. I mean, I met some people that I hadn't seen for quite a while, and it was great catching up. And I think I even got some story leads out of it. So I'm not sorry a bit that I skipped a few sessions, because I think I did what I set out to do.
Actually, I have a question for you about that, because I was at C2 a little while ago in in Canada. And I realized I struggled with approaching strangers when I had a story idea that they said. I was like, ooh, you work at so-and-so? I want to talk to you. But how do I not sound like a crazy person when I approach you? So in your experience, Gary, when you're at events and you find people that you think are interesting or cool or worth talking to for the future, what's your spiel when you do that?
It's kind of case specific, but often I would just go up to someone and say, what did you hear today that really moved you? What did you learn out of this day? Or are you glad you came? Is this working out for you? What did I miss? What sessions did you go to that I maybe should have caught and that I should circle back? If you make it kind of subject matter focused, people are happy to talk about that. I find that's more effective than, what's your sign, or do you come here often? That doesn't work so well anymore.
That's true.
Some people do really respond to that if you find the right person, but not always.
If you find the right person, yes.
Okay, so 2 questions is kind of the same question, but 2 different meanings. One goal of this podcast, this new podcast, is to ask our guests, what are some tools for your toolbox that you would impart onto new planners? But I also want to ask, what do you want to impart onto us? Because I am curious about what advice you have for us as people who we haven't been in this industry very long. Mm-hmm. We're still very green, we don't know all the things, obviously, and we're still learning. So, what would you what is a piece of advice you would give to a planner who are brand new, brand spanking new, and to us who are spanking new to this industry?
Reasonably new. But we also want to learn from you. Our listeners want to learn from you, and Eming and I want to learn from you too.
Yes.
I guess I would say, always remember, this is not a Lone Ranger job. I kind of alluded to this earlier. It's really all about teamwork and collaboration, just like in a magazine here in Smart Meetings. I mean, we work as a team. We look at each other's work. We hope, constructive suggestions to make it better. And everybody needs an editor. Everybody needs a team. So look for the team you want to play on and be the best team player you can be. Be generous with yourself, and hope that others will be as generous with you. And that's how you learn, and that's how you make connections and friends that you'll keep for your career. I mean, I know in journalism, I have journalism friends that go back decades, and we keep in touch. And the same can be true in the meetings industry. Just don't try to do it alone. Don't be shy about asking for help, asking questions, and mentor others as you go along.
So what I'm hearing is teamwork makes the dream work.
It certainly does.
It does. It really does. And if it's done in the right spirit, it's the greatest thing ever. If it's done cooperatively and without malice aforethought, it's all good.
Mm-hmm. Well, this right here, I think, is a living example of that. Gary, thank you for joining us today and speaking with us for this official relaunch. You are a fantastic writer. If you haven't read Gary's work, you have to read Gary's work.
Google him.
He has
Go to smartmeetings.com.
An amazing voice. He has a great voice. So much character in his writing, and he's a wonderful editor, and we're so lucky to have him on the team. He's a great part of the team.
And we hope, if he's up to it in the future, we'd love to include him in other segments on our new relaunched podcast, if he's, willing and likes us enough to come back.
If we can encourage you to come back and join us again.
Oh, maybe if you put some special snack in the break room.
We can do that. We might have to expense that, but yes. That can definitely happen.
That shouldn't be a problem. Maybe some of that Hawaiian barbecue that you've been raving about.
Noted. Barbecue.
Yeah.
Gotcha, Gary. We got you covered.
All right.
But thank you so much again for coming on.
It's been fun. I really enjoyed it. I'd love to do it again.
So thank you all for listening to our first relaunch of Smart Start Radio. We really hope you enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. We hope you enjoyed Gary because he is a hoot. Let me tell you.
Gary is a hoot.
You got 20 minutes of him. We get way more than that every week. And we
get at least 40 hours a week. And we hope that you learned something here too in these glorious 20 minutes.
We hope so. So if you liked what you heard, please subscribe to us on Apple iTunes, Spotify. If you have an interest in becoming part of our discussion, please email us at editor@smartmeetings.com.
Until next time.
You've been listening to Smart Start Radio, a Smart Meetings production. Interested in being our next guest? Connect with us at editor@smartmeetings.com.